All right, my good people. So this is chapter 15. This is step 9, which is budgets and funding plans for our nonprofit marketing for our social marketing campaigns. So let's do this. So step 9 introduces the critical task for creating budget and identifying funding sources for your social campaigns. And budget, as we said before, it's not just about a list of expenses or money. It's also about other things as well. When we talked about return on your investment, that was in terms of behavioral change. Well, this is something a little bit similar. So when we talk about budget, it's a strategic exercise that ensures that resources are allocated into the right place. So we're not just talking about money resources, we are also talking about human resources, volunteers, people who want to help, people who are championing your cause. Cool? So a really good budget would provide a clear roadmap for how these resources are used. And of course, since it is a budget, the primary resource would probably be finance. And that's the finances that you're using. So you're talking about how they will be used. You're also talking about planning, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. Because as we said, if it's not measurable, it didn't exist. So we have to find a way to track it, right? So we have to evaluate how that budget went through and how it was distributed. One really important thing to consider is inclusion, diversity, equity. This is always the case with these projects as well. And into this budget planning. So you're looking at designing programs, because these are social programs. You're looking at places that actually need this funding and that may have like this disproportionate availability to them, right? People might not be able to reach your campaign because of it, right? Maybe you're doing a behavioral change that's based on health, and they have to go to a clinic. So you have to take into consideration when you're doing this budget that there are certain areas that may require that you bring the clinic to them, right? And so these are things that you have to include and be aware in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion when it comes to these to resource allocation. So you want to create resources that are culturally relevant and ensure that people have accessibility to these things, and that people with disabilities can also reach your resources as well. So budget determination involves selecting methods that align with the campaign's objective and available resources. If it's not available, you can't use it. So just normal thing for everyday life. So the 4 primary methods outlined here, we're talking about affordable methods. We're talking about competitive party methods, objective and task methods, and cost per sale. So we're gonna look at the first one, and that focuses on spending what the organization can actually afford to do and making practical choices for smaller campaigns. So yes, I want to change the entire world. Does anyone else want to change the world? Fantastic. I love that. I cannot change the entire world. I do not have the funding for it. However, one of my favorite quotes says, we can't all do great things, but we can do little things with great love. So when you're talking about your campaigns, when you're talking about things like that, you're also looking at it as a smaller scale. Cool. So it doesn't have to be giant. You have to look at your resources. You have to look at your budget. You have to think, what can I do as a nonprofit? And also, for those of you who said yes, you want to change the world, it starts with your actions today. So you may not be able to do big things, but you can do small, little, tiny things that make a difference. And that is you on a personal level, looking at what is available in terms of resources that you can have that you can share with people. We're just doing the same process on a bigger scale. So if it was on a personal scale, maybe you have nothing to do on Thursday afternoon. You're like, I'm going to volunteer at the homeless shelter. That gives us a resource that you're allocating. Cool? Cool. Yeah, fantastic. All right. The second one is for benchmarking spending against that of competitors. So this can provide a useful reference point. So it's not always, so it may not account for the differences in campaign goals or target audience. So for example, a campaign focusing on reducing smoking in a low income community, it might require a different resources than the competitors in affluent communities. Maybe the problem in low-income communities has something to do with the fact that this is the available culture. Maybe in higher income communities or more affluent communities, they're dealing with a whole other set of tools or a whole other set of problems. So we have to figure out what and who we're talking about and who we're talking to and allocate the resources correctly as well. And you're also comparing these things based while taking into consideration that maybe your competitors, even though they're doing the same cause, they might be targeting a different community, and you have to be cognizant of that as well. Objective and task method is probably the most logical approach because it ties spending directly to campaign goals and required activities. So for example, if the goal is to increase the recycling rate by 20%, so we're looking at more things being recycled, the budget would allocate resources to activities that are things like community workshops, things like promotional materials, and things of that nature. So essentially, this is directly what it is covering. So whatever the objective and the task is, that is what you're paying for. And then lastly, we have the cost per sale, and that is more common in commercial marketing. You've seen it. Anyone here do analytics or Google ads or things like that? No, no one yet? Okay, so you have pay per click or those ads that show up on top. That is someone actually paid for those ads to be there. And so that is a pay per click, or here we have the cost per sale. It's something similar. And it calculates the cost per behavior change. So we're looking at the cost of each individual adopting a healthier eating choice, okay? Or the cost of someone actually going through and recycling. How much money are you spending in order for that person to actually do what they need to do? Yeah? All right, so let's take a look at things in a little bit more at a closer range. And objective and task method, as we said, it's the most strategic approach to budgeting because it allows for the detailed alignments between what is actually happening, the objective, and the task at hand, and what you need to accomplish. So this method begins with identifying specific outcomes so that you're going to achieve. What is the objective of your whole campaign? What are the things that you want to hit, the milestones that you want to hit? And then you can be able to take that and assess how much money should be allocated there or how much resources should be allocated there as well. So once you've defined those parameters, you can look at the tasks required to be able to accomplish them and break it down based on the tasks that are there. A critical component of this method is called product-related cost, and that includes the development and the distribution of campaign materials. So you're looking at what do you actually need for you to be able to carry out that campaign? Do you need brochures? Do you need videos? Do you need social media posts? How much is this going to cost you? Do you need billboards? All of that would be, product-related costs as well. All right, so again, we have things like price-related costs, place-related costs, promotional-related costs, and evaluation-related costs. When we're talking about price-related costs, we refer to the expenses associated with making the product or service affordable and accessible to the target audience. And it has to be both. You can't have a Louis Vuitton store in the middle of Fancy Alley in LA. maybe you have the knockoff version. That's a different story, right? So you can't have that. That people could have access to it, but it's not affordable for them. So it doesn't make sense for it to be placed. So what you need to place within your campaign, it has to be within the affordability and within accessibility. Place-related costs, we're focusing on making the product or service easily available where the target audience is most likely to engage. So we've talked about psychological barriers before, things that stop you from getting to that behavioral change. This is something similar. You want the placement of the product and or service that you're trying to promote, or the behavior that you're trying to promote, to be easily accessible to the people that are there. So an example that we've used before is having vaccination shots in the mall, where a lot of the moms take their kids. So it's easy and accessible to these moms and to these children. And so you're looking at the cost that it would take for you to place it in a place that is accessible. We're also talking about promotion-related costs, and these are the expenses of raising awareness and generating interest in the campaign. So essentially, how do you let people know? How much is it going to cost you to contact that influencer and get them to talk about what it is that you're talking about? Make sense? Yeah? Okay, so that would be an example of promotion-related costs, and you have to factor that into the budget. And then the last one is evaluation-related costs, and these are usually overlooked because no one really cares when they're planning. It doesn't dawn on people to look at them, but they're actually very important. So they're very much overlooked, but they're very essential in figuring out how impactful the campaign was. Okay, it's like me giving you a test at the beginning of class, right, or at the beginning of this semester to assess how much you know, and then giving you an assessment test at the end of the semester to evaluate how effective my teaching was throughout. Okay, so if I don't think of that ahead of me starting to actually teach, then I will not get the accurate feedback. So as you are planning your budget and as you're allocating resources, you have to look at what's the cost of this evaluation? What does it cost me to actually have people come in later and reevaluate the program 6 months from now? Yeah, good. So then you have to justify a campaign's budget, which is probably as important as determining it. Why is this budget the way it is? Why do you think this should go there? What's the return on investment that you are getting? Okay, so you're saying, okay, well, if we invest 20% into marketing, we're going to get a, I don't know, 40% return on investment, or 40% more people will change their behavior. Yeah, okay. So you're looking at things at a return on investment, so how much you're getting back. And as we said before, return on investment is not just about money. It's also, in this case, it's about behavioral change. And that's how we account for it. So when you go to your donors or grants from the government and you're saying, okay, well, you gave us $10,000, this is how we're going to use it. Or then in the evaluation process, this is how we used it. They're going to come back and say, how many of these people use that service as a result of that $10,000? Okay. So apart from monetary gains, social marketing campaigns, they produce intangible benefits, things like improved public health, increased awareness, enhanced community well-being. They might be a little bit harder for us to track, but they are also trackable. So we have to show these, and we have to, especially to the investors, the people who are donating, the government who's giving you grants, you have to prove to them why it actually matters. And you can do that through studies, you can do that through testimonies, you can do that through showcasing videos, you can do that through the numbers of attendance that came to your workshop, and so forth. last thing of determining the budget, you are looking at cost per behavior change, benefit per behavior change as well, and you're looking at identifying these benefits, sorry, I just said that, and calculating the ROI based on gross and net economic benefit. So identifying the behavioral change involves tracking the specific task or measurable action that you want people to take. So looking at that, figuring out what it is, which hopefully if you follow through the first 8 steps, you've already identified your audience, you've already identified what it is you want them to change, and being able to track that, and that would be through budgeting. And the next one would be cost per behavior change. So calculate how much was spent to achieve each instance of the desired behavior. So for example, if a campaign spends $100,000 and as a result, they get 10,000 people adopting that health behavioral change, what would the cost be? What do you guys think? They have $100,000 and 10,000 people change. $100,000, got 10,000. All the zeros cancel out. You're left with 1, 1, and 1, 0. So it costs you what? $10, right? $10. Each behavior change costs you $10. Cool? And then the last one is benefit per behavior change. So examine the positive outcome generated by each instance of behavior. So for example, if each person who quits smoking reduces the healthcare cost by $5,000, then in effect, the benefit is $5,000 per person. Okay? So based on that behavior, the benefit based on that behavior change. All right, so now we're looking at a nonprofit, and a nonprofit needs money. Where do we get the money for nonprofits? What do you guys think? What is it? Are they just handing out money? Yeah. What is it? Donors, yeah. Investors, grants from the government, special programs, special funding that's set aside. That's essentially it. So here we're talking about government grants and appropriation, which are they're the most impactful funding. So you're looking at federal, state, and local government agencies that are providing substantial financial support. It usually is a lot more than any one person can donate. Obviously, we keep on hearing it. Well, one person's charitable donation of $100 is very, very important. But truthfully, the bulk of this is actually coming from heavy investors, whether it's companies that have a philanthropic side that invest in things, like when you go to Stater Brothers and you donate that 50 cents and they match it or whatever the case is, that is, that's also big investors that they're looking for. So you're, as a nonprofit, you are looking for local support, but what you're really looking for is companies that can move things, that are willing to invest in your cause, or government grants that you can apply for, that you can get that as well. Cool? All right. So Budget Sound Partnership is dedicated to environmental recovery. This is an example that we have, and exemplifies how coordinating funding can lead to significant outcomes. So by securing $650 million for more than 800 projects, this initiative showcased the power of leveraging government resources. Bottom line is this: they went out, they campaigned, they were able to get the money that they needed. They went to heavy investors. And those people were like, okay, we'll donate. And they were able to get, and it's not necessarily individual people, but it is usually like government grants or people who are willing, people who have big companies, and they exist, you guys, that are willing to match certain things, okay? There's a very famous Lebanese poet, his name is Gibran Khalil Gibran. They just opened a foundation for him Well, they've had a historical foundation for him in the United States because he was a very big author in the US for a very long time. And they had this historical foundation. Now they needed to revamp that foundation. What they went out and did is there's a person that donated 500,000 and then went out to the richest families in the community that he knew that had huge businesses throughout the nation and said, are you willing to, if you pay the 60,000 to be on the board or a trustee, then I will match it with that amount. And so he ended up raising $1 million to restore this historical site simply by approaching the right people who were able to leverage this stuff. So sure, my $100 donation or your $100 donation or $5 donation could have contributed, but essentially what they did when you're looking at something like this, you're looking at nonprofits that can go out and they can leverage big places and big people to be able to donate and to be able to make an actual substantial impact. Cool? Yeah? So it's possible. It's not just something in theory. So nonprofit organizations and foundations are a significant source of funding for social marketing campaigns, obviously, because the majority of social marketing campaigns happen through nonprofit. They are the ones that are out there to change the course of humanity, and they are the ones that are out there to say, hey, we care about you. We're a community. Let's make a world of a difference. And there is 127,595 active foundations worldwide. That's a lot of people who care a lot about the world. So just if you're having a bad day today and you're thinking you're by yourself and no one cares, it's not true. People care. All right. And so when you have these organizations, they're dedicated to addressing all kinds of issues that are out there. So you're looking at public health, education, environmental sustainability, and these missions often align closely with the goals of social marketing campaigns, making them valuable partners. So when you're running this social marketing campaign, you can reach out to other organizations that are doing similar things and say, hey, all right, can you help us? It doesn't always have to be in budgeting. It could be in partnership based or leveraging the audience that they have, or simply spreading the word. Cool? Yeah, questions? How we doing? All right. So the primary focus of nonprofits foundation is to create a social value rather than financial returns, and that's hopefully something that we know already. All right, so there are different types of nonprofit foundations that often support social marketing efforts. That would be a family foundation, general foundations, corporate foundations, and community foundations. When we look at family foundations, they are typically funded by individual families and may focus on specific causes that reflect their personal value. Now, in the example of the Lebanese American author, what do you think it was? What did I say? He found the what? The wealthiest families, right? Yeah, in the community. So it reflects their deep desire for their roots and to make sure that their roots are seen throughout the United States and that historical site is preserved. So he went into that negotiation appealing to these family foundations, to these people who had that wealth and for them if they could spare. Okay? So that would be an example of that. It matters to them, and so they funded it. You have general foundations, and they provide a broad-based funding for a wide range of causes. And these are often prioritized initiatives with large-scale impact or innovative approach to addressing societal change. So again, this isn't like one thing. You could approach these people and say, this is my campaign. And if they're looking at it as a priority, then that's what they will do. The third thing that we have is corporate foundations, and they are created by companies as a part of their corporate social responsibility initiative, which is something that hasn't been around for such a long time, but it is around, which is great. So sorry, if you're looking at, I think we've talked about Tom's before, the shoes, okay? Their donation portion has that corporate foundation. Now, they have their own nonprofit thing going, but a lot of companies don't. And so they are willing to fund different social campaigns, and that goes through their corporate funding or corporate foundation. And then the last one we have is community foundation, and it focuses on addressing local issues with a specific geographic area. And this can be a critical source of funding for regionally targeted campaigns. So the city of Los Angeles wants to help homeless people in Los Angeles. That would be something that you would go to, right? Community foundations that are concerned with the city. Yeah. All right. So let's just maybe. So corporations, they play a significant role. So you're looking at different types of corporate or cause-related marketing initiative. And so you're looking, for example, Drink Wiser campaign developed as a part of Global Smart Drinking Goals program. And it was aimed to reduce alcohol consumption and promote drinking responsibly. And so it aligned with that social marketing campaign, aligned with AB InBev Foundation. And so they were able to take it on, okay? And they were able to provide the funding. Advertising and media partnership can also be very important, and it's usually pro bono services to social marketing campaigns, which means that they're free, and that's wonderful. And so they offer both the funding and the platform for to spread that information. And so that would be great. So the availability of that marketing for free for you or advertising for free for you is great. All right. And so media partners can offer discounted or free placements to access to their network and creative support to developing campaign material, and that's the hope. Coalitions and other partnerships are essential for pooling resources to implement large-scale campaigns. So essentially, they allow organizations to combine their expertise, networks, and funding to achieve a greater collective impact. And so these collaborations are particularly valuable in social marketing campaigns that require a widespread awareness and deep community engagement. So the whole concept is that a bunch of different organizations come together or members come together, and they're able to kind of get you deep and deep into that community. You know that one super connector that knows everybody in the community? That's the one we do, okay? Get 10 of those people, and now you're connected to a very huge network in the community. So corporation, they play significant roles in funding, as we talked about before, through their CSR efforts. And these partnerships, they operate on getting and giving principle. So essentially, the getting and giving principle is that they're making money, they're giving money. Cool? Not the same amount, clearly, right? Because they need to make profit, but they're getting money and they're also giving that money as well. And here we're looking at, there are 3 key trends in corporate giving, including strategic alignment with corporate goals, increased focus on measurable impact, and a shift towards long-term partnerships. So corporations are increasingly attracted to social marketing efforts that align with their brand identity and their brand values. So when you talk about Tom's Shoes, they donate shoes. And they do that because there's a link in your mind between the two. So there's kind of like a win-win-win situation. Everyone involved is winning. And to attract corporate support, social marketers or social marketing campaigns should highlight the benefits of collaborations. That would be to enhance brand visibility, access to new market, and opportunities for employee engagement. Any questions so far? How are we doing? Is it still alive? Cool. All right. Cash grants and contributions are probably the most direct ways corporations support social marketing campaigns. So these grants are often awarded for specific purposes. So things like research, program implementation, or capacity building. If you want to secure that cash grant, as an organization, you have to demonstrate that there's a need. And you have to demonstrate a clear plan as to why you're asking for the money that you're asking. It goes back to the budgeting thing where you know exactly what it is, and like you're able to say, this is how much it's going to give us back, and this is why we need it. So you have to be able to articulate these things if you are seeking funding. Cause-related marketing is where corporations and social marketers collaborate to address societal issues. So both are benefiting from this. Again, it's a win-win proposition that makes the brand look better, and it connects them more to their audience, and so that their audience knows more about them and feels that connection with them and associates them with something good. So if you're looking, for example, at the Yoplait yogurt campaign to support breast cancer research, and Ethos Water Initiative to provide clean drinking water. Essentially, one is for eating healthier and one is for drinking better water, right? Drinking water more so. And so when you have that, you are linking the two things together. And as a social marketer, you go up to that company and you say, hey, we're doing this and it aligns with your audience. Would you be interested in donating? Or being a part of it, or sponsoring it, or whatever you want to call it. Then you have in-kind contributions, and these are non-monetary donations that often appeal more to corporations than direct cash funding. And that is, these contributions can include products and services or expertise that support the implementation of the social marketing campaign. So those would be things that they can donate. A technology company might donate a software license that you're able to use it, okay? Or they might give a really big discount for nonprofit. If you've used Canva before, Canva has a nonprofit section, and I think it's free. Okay, so that's in-kind donation. And then the last thing for funding, you are looking at offering access to distribution channels, so providing tremendous visibility and logistical support. For example, Best Buy has partnered with campaigns to promote technology education by showcasing material in their store's online platform and reaching millions of customers. So that is another way to partner up with these people for distribution and support. All right, to secure funding, this is not the right one. So you want to identify, to secure funding or appeal to funders, you want to identify and prioritize potential funders. These are the people that are relevant to you, that will actually champion your cause, that really care about what you're doing, right? While Gibran is a very big poet, and he is one of the biggest authors in the United States who died a long time ago. If I go to an Indonesian community in the United States to talk about the historical society, will they fund it? Most likely not, right? Because there are no ties to that community. So what did we do? We found the potential funders and we went straight to them. Okay, and that would be the Lebanese Syrian community. So to secure that funding effectively, you must deepen your understanding of the funder's specific wants, needs, and perspectives. And that would be conducting thorough research on the funder's priorities, past contribution, and any explicit guidelines they provide. And the funders often value campaigns that align with their organization's mission and demonstrate measurable outcomes. So they want things that are related to them. So you can develop a successful appeal by demonstrating that the campaign's potential for significant social impact and align it with other strategic objectives. You can ask the questions to be considered and figure out if this is actually a possibility for you. And that you can do by creating a key element of an effective plan and tailoring the proposal to highlight the unique benefits for each funder, specifically to show how they can be related and how they can benefit from being a part or associated with your campaign. Okay, the last thing that you want to do is you want to revise the campaign plan. And that involves adapting to changes and circumstances. This is the last slide anyways. So essentially you're revising your plan, you're developing campaign phases, you're making everything clear, you're adjusting your goal based on what they need and so forth. And the last one that we have is ethical considerations when establishing funding. And you really want to make sure that the funding for social marketing campaigns is ethical, it is transparent, and you are using the money where you want it, where you are saying that you would use it. All right, my friends, questions? Cool. That is it for today. That's our last lecture.